Out in the silent depths, a world hangs in the void, a twin to our own. Azure oceans glitter beneath a familiar sun, and vast green continents stretch toward the horizon. Clouds, soft and white, cast their fleeting shadows over mountain ranges carved by time. In recent decades, our instruments have unveiled thousands of worlds orbiting distant stars. Among them, a handful of promising candidates, perhaps even habitable. But what if one were not merely a candidate, but a true reflection? A second Earth? Would life there mirror our own? Or would it be a stranger, born of the same elements but forged by a different story? To answer whether we could ever call such a place home, we must first pass it through the gauntlet of life's essential demands. The first and most immediate is the very air we would breathe. We would require a sky rich in oxygen, balanced within a vast, stabilizing sea of nitrogen. It would need to be an atmosphere thick enough to serve as an invisible shield, deflecting the sterilizing fury of cosmic radiation, yet delicate enough to act as a planetary blanket, trapping just enough warmth to stave off the eternal cold of space. Without this precise alchemy, the first breath taken on this new world would also be the last. Then there is water, the lifeblood of biology as we know it. A true twin would need oceans of liquid water, great rivers carving canyons through the land, and rain to nourish its soil. Every cell in every living thing on Earth is built around this universal solvent. On this alien shore, it might manifest in spectacular extremes. Ferocious monsoons lashing the tropics, permanent ice sheets miles deep at the poles, or mist-shrouded forests cloaking the equator. The global temperature would have to be a delicate average, a gentle climate that allows water to flow free, at least across some portion of the planet. And finally, there is the unseen hand that sculpts everything: gravity. An identical twin would exert a familiar pull, the constant, gentle force that anchors us to the ground. But even a slight deviation in the planet's size or density would rewrite the rules of existence. A stronger gravity would turn every step into a struggle, forcing the heart to labor harder to lift blood against its pull. Trees might grow stout and low, their architecture a testament to the crushing weight they must bear. Conversely, a slightly weaker gravity would grant us a newfound lightness. A simple jump could become a soaring leap. Plants might stretch impossibly high, reaching for a sun that demands less of them. Even if all these conditions were met, the air, the water, the gravity, a fundamental question would remain. We would arrive as invaders, perfectly suited for a world that is not our own. The life that may have already arisen there, from its deepest microbes to its most complex creatures, would be utterly alien. A perfect copy of Earth is not an empty Earth. It is a world with its own history, its own evolution, its own masters. We search for a mirror in the cosmos, but we may find that even in the most familiar of reflections, we are, and always will be, strangers. Against the canvas of a thin, ethereal sky, flight is no longer a dream, but a simple matter of physics. In a world with lower gravity, the chains that bind us to the Earth's surface would feel profoundly loosened. Our very bodies, masterpieces of evolution sculpted by one specific gravitational constant, would begin a slow and uncertain transformation. The familiar strain on muscle and bone would vanish, a relief that would soon become a threat. Without the constant resistance of our homeworld, our powerful skeletal frames could thin, our musculature could atrophy, a slow decay born of ease. Conversely, on a world heavier than our own, humanity would be forged anew in a crucible of immense pressure. Every step would be a monumental effort, Our bodies would be compelled to adapt, bones reinforcing their structure into something denser, more resilient. Muscles would swell, developing a raw power simply to permit locomotion. The graceful rhythm of walking and running, an act we perform without thought, would be rewritten into a deliberate, heavy cadence, the gait of a species struggling against a relentless and invisible force. But the very character of a world is dictated not from within, but from without. Its ultimate fate is tethered to the heart of its solar system, its parent star. Imagine for a moment an alien world bathed in the litter with constellations that, while alien, would offer a comforting semblance of home. The fundamental cycles of light and dark, of warmth and cold, would be a rhythm we could understand. Now, cast that world into a different orbit, around a different stellar engine. Picture it circling a red dwarf, a star far smaller, cooler, and older than our own. The sky would no longer be a brilliant blue, but would be stained in perpetual shades of crimson and ochre. The light filtering down would not be a life-giving gold, but a permanent, rosé-tinted twilight. Their leaves might evolve to be a deep, brooding purple, or even the color of polished jet, every surface engineered to absorb the last faint photon of energy from their dim, red sun. The very passage of time on such a world would be unearthly. Many planets orbiting red dwarfs are tidally locked, one hemisphere trapped in a permanent scorching day, the other frozen in an endless cryogenic night. Life, if it were to exist, could not flourish in these extremes. It would be forced to cling to the borderlands, to the narrow ribbon of territory between fire and ice, where the sun never rises and never sets. In this sliver of the world, this zone of perpetual dawn, life would evolve under an infinite sunset. The parent star does more than provide light. It defines the rhythm of existence, sculpting the years, the seasons, and the very soul of every creature that dares to grow beneath its gaze. Yet life, as we have learned from our own planet's tumultuous history, is an astonishingly versatile force. Here on Earth, every living thing, from the simplest bacterium to the most complex mammal, shares a common chemical foundation: the element carbon. It is the supreme architect of biology, its unique properties allowing it to form the long, complex. But what if, on a distant world, the dice of chemistry rolled differently? What if life did not choose carbon? For decades, scientists have speculated on an alternative, a biology built not on carbon, but on silicon. As an element, it shares some of carbon's architectural prowess, its ability to form complex molecular structures. The beings that might arise from such a chemistry stagger the imagination. We can envision creatures of crystalline biology, their skin possessing the coriaceous texture of cooled lava or the fragile sheen of spun glass. Their very cells would be built from a different dust, their lungs perhaps processing compounds that would be instantly lethal to us. On their world, the landscape would be profoundly alien. The Great Lakes and oceans would not be water, but frigid, shimmering seas of liquid methane or ammonia, solvents in which a truly exotic biochemistry could emerge from the cold. Instead of verdant forests, we might find vast plains of colossal burnt orange fungi, pulsing with unknown chemical reactions, or carpets of lichen that illuminate the long nights with an eerie, phosphorescent glow. A life based on silicon would be different in every conceivable aspect. It might thrive in temperatures that would incinerate carbon-based organisms, or in pressures that would crush us into oblivion. Its metabolism might be glacial, its perception of time stretched across centuries, its thoughts unfolding with the patience of geology itself. Life, it seems, is not a single definitive melody, but an infinite symphony of possibilities, played on countless worlds with wildly different instruments. We are but one note in that cosmic composition, our carbon and water biology just one way of expressing the universe's relentless drive to become self-aware. In the grand, silent theater of the cosmos, the most profound truth may be that wherever the stage is set, an actor will eventually appear, ready to play its part. Life need not be as we know it. The very definition of biology, rooted in the chemistry of carbon and water, may be nothing more than a local dialect spoken on one small world. Elsewhere, the fundamental processes could be radically different. Imagine life that does not build with flesh, but with crystal. A consciousness that grows not through cell division, but through mineral accretion, drawing its nutrients not from organic matter, but from the raw geology of its home. Beyond chemistry, the physical stage upon which life might perform could host environments that, on Earth, exist only in the realm of feverish fantasy. Consider a world orbiting a distant, dying star, a moon akin to Titan. Here, under hazy orange skies, oceans stretch not of water, but of liquid methane. At a staggering -180 degrees Celsius, these frigid seas could harbor a form of life that breathes hydrogen and metabolizes acetylene, its entire biology a slow, cryogenic ballet. Creatures of silicon and frost might navigate these hydrocarbon tides, their existence a testament to the universe's profound indifference to our terrestrial norms. Or perhaps we turn our gaze to a super-Earth, a planet with an atmosphere of nitrogen so dense it presses down with the weight of an ocean, shrouding the surface in an eternal, violet twilight. In such a dim and compressed world, the very concept of a forest would be rewritten. Plants might not reach for the sky, but instead spread low and wide, absorbing their nourishment directly from the thick, nutrient-rich air rather than the soil. Vision would be a useless luxury. Animals, low-slung and creeping, would navigate this murky landscape not by sight, but by an exquisitely developed sense of smell, tasting the world on the dense, slow-moving currents of gas. The most resilient ecosystems may be those hidden from starlight entirely, thriving in the planet's secret warmth. Beneath kilometers of ice or rock, in vast caverns warmed by the planet's molten heart, life could flourish in absolute darkness. Far from any sun, it would be powered by geothermal energy, by the chemical breath of volcanic vents. Here, entire walls of immense grottos could be carpeted with fluorescent bacteria, casting an ethereal, ghostly light. And through these glowing, silent halls, blind predators would hunt, guided not by light, but by the faint signatures of heat and vibration, their senses attuned to a world we can barely conceive. On a planet with such extreme peculiarities, nature would have authored a completely different book of evolution, creating beings that defy our most basic assumptions. If life does manage to take root on a world even superficially similar to our own, how would its flora and fauna diverge? Imagine the alien plants swaying under a foreign sky. On a planet with twice Earth's gravity, the relentless pull would dictate every aspect of growth. The upward struggle would be a monumental effort. Trees would grow squat and compact, their branches short and thick, their root systems vast and deep to anchor them against the crushing force. Every centimeter of height would be an expensive victory against physics, increasing the risk of a catastrophic collapse. The light of their parent star would paint these landscapes in palettes unknown to us. Beneath a dim, red dwarf, forests might appear black or a deep, haunting violet. their foliage engineered to capture every last photon of the faint, ruddy light. Conversely, under the searing glare of a brilliant blue-white star, plants might evolve shimmering, reflective germ cells from being scorched. In worlds racked by intense solar flares, entire ecosystems might have learned to cower, their flora furling into armored buds during radiation storms, only to unfurl once more when the celestial fury subsides. And what of the creatures that move among these alien gardens? On a world with a dense atmosphere but low gravity, the air itself could become a habitat. Gaiathans that ride gentle updrafts between canopy layers, filtering the air for sustenance. They would be masters of. But on a high-gravity planet, the fauna would be forged in a crucible of immense pressure. Life would be a study in power and endurance, to tribute their immense weight, the chitinous armor, not for defense against predators, but to protect themselves from the bone-shattering consequences of a simple fall. Each of these worlds, from the frozen seas of methane to the high-gravity fortresses of life, represents a unique evolutionary answer to a unique set of cosmic questions. The laws of physics may be universal, but the biological forms they permit are near infinite in their potential variety. To search for extraterrestrial life is to search for the outer limits of imagination. For in the grand cosmic theater, the story of life is not a singular monologue, but an infinite chorus, and we have, so far, heard only a single voice. Across the cosmos, the blueprint of life is not a singular design, but an infinite library of possibilities. Might encounter creatures with 6 or even 8 limbs, a biological solution for supreme stability on treacherous, shifting landscapes. Or perhaps, under the strain of immense gravity, life would remain low to the crushing force they must endure. The act of breathing itself would be a negotiation with an alien chemistry. The respiratory systems of these creatures would be exquisitely adapted to the local gases. In an atmosphere thin on oxygen, animals might evolve vast, cavernous lungs, or even multiple hearts, each a powerful pump dedicated to circulating the precious, life-giving element through their bodies. Where the air is thick with carbon dioxide, a different evolutionary path could emerge. We might find symbiotic organisms, their tissues interwoven with internal algae, a living partnership that purifies the gas. Every ecological niche, no matter how extreme, would give birth to its own unique and brilliant solutions. Imagine nocturnal predators, their senses honed to an impossible sharpness, hunting through the perpetual twilight of a tidally locked hemisphere that never sees its sun. And in the searing heat of that same world's other side, tireless burrowers, constructing vast subterranean cities to escape the torrid alien noon. But what if the next pioneers to set foot on such a world were not alien, but human? What would become of us after generations lived far from the cradle of Earth? On a planet with a different gravitational pull, our children and our children's children would not remain as we are. The human form would begin a new, unprecedented journey. In a gravity stronger than Earth's, the human body would be remade by the unyielding pressure. Generations would be born shorter, more robust, their skeletons forged of denser bone to bear the constant heavy load. Their hearts would become powerful, indefatigable engines, laboring to drive blood through a compressed form. Conversely, in a low-gravity environment, a different kind of human might arise. People could grow taller, more slender, their limbs elongating with an ethereal grace. But this elegance would come at a cost. They would have to wage a constant war against muscular atrophy, their bodies fighting to remember the strength they no longer need. Their very posture might shift, as the spine is freed from its terrestrial burden. Even the color of our skin, our primary shield against the heavens, would adapt. Beneath a star that bathes its planet in fierce ultraviolet radiation, human pigmentation would darken over generations, a vital and necessary defense. While under the gentle, ruddy light of a cooler, kinder star, we might see complexions grow clearer, more pale. In the span of a few generations, these off-world humans would begin to diverge, becoming a new and distinct branch of the human family, a species forged by distant suns and alien soil. Beyond these profound biological transformations, we must imagine how a human civilization would prosper. Our cities could not be mere copies of those on Earth. Architecture and technology would have to bend to the fundamental laws of a new nature. Under a superior gravity, buildings would need wider, more massive foundations, their structures kept low to the ground to avoid collapsing under their own immense weight. Construction materials would need to be re-engineered from the atomic level, composed of ultra-resistant alloys and composites yet to be conceived. In these new crucibles of existence, humanity would be redefined. The question then is not simply if we can survive beyond our home world, but what we will become when the very ground beneath our feet is no longer Earth. When our descendants look up into their sky, will they see the stars as a frontier, or will they gaze upon a single, faint, blue point of light and wonder about the forgotten memory of their own beginning? In a world of lesser gravity, the familiar constraints of architecture would dissolve into memory. Here, we could dare to build skeletal spires that climb effortlessly into the alien stratosphere, their delicate frameworks brushing against clouds of unknown composition. Great crystalline domes could be supported with impossible ease, stretching for miles to create vast, controlled environments. Beneath these shimmering canopies, terrestrial greenhouses would flourish, allowing us to cultivate the food of a distant Earth upon the soil of a new home. But it is the air itself, the very breath of a new world, that would dictate the most fundamental rules of existence. An atmosphere that is breathable, yet laced with unfamiliar trace gases, would necessitate a life lived behind filters. Our homes would become sanctuaries of purified air, their systems humming a constant, quiet defense against the subtle hostility of the outside. Should the atmospheric pressure be significantly higher, our cities would take on the appearance of deep-sea habitats. Life would be a constant struggle against a crushing embrace. Dorsk portals offering only cautious glimpses of the world beyond. Conversely, where the air is thin and tenuous, civilization would sink into the landscape. Cities would arise not on plains, but in the deepest valleys and canyons, where the heavier life. We can envision a metropolis where the sun is not a friend. On a planet orbiting too close to its star, or one without a protective magnetosphere, its midday glare would be a lethal force. Here, the streets would become covered canyons of permacrete and alloy, engineered to shield the populace from aggressive radiation. Life would be lived in a perpetual, manufactured twilight, the rhythm of the day dictated not by the rising sun, but by the safety of the shadows we build. Our technology, by necessity, would become a direct reflection of these challenges. On worlds of immense gravity, workers would not walk, but pilot powerful exoskeletons, their augmented frames bearing the unyielding burden of a planet determined to pull them down. Where the ground is fragile, a crust of porous rock or shifting sands, our vehicles would not roll on wheels. They would be whispering air-cushioned transports, gliding silently over terrain that would crumble under a human footstep. Every facet of daily life, from transportation to construction, would be reimagined, a bespoke solution born from the unique character of that world. For the alien environment would not merely shape our tools and our shelters, it would reshape our souls. Imagine a planet graced not by one moon, but by two colossal satellites, their cratered faces filling the night sky with a soft, pervasive luminescence. What new myths would be born under their twin gazes? What legends would be woven about these silent, celestial deities locked in an eternal dance? An isolated community, an outpost of consciousness beneath unknown constellations, might develop a profound and urgent sense of unity. They would understand, in a way we no longer can, that they are guests in a vast, non-terrestrial ecosystem, fostering a deep reverence for the delicate, alien nature that sustains them. Their festivals, strange and beautiful rhythms of their adopted home, the alignment of unfamiliar constellations, or the turning of seasons defined by axial tilts we have yet to comprehend. Even our most ancient beliefs would be challenged and transformed. To wake each morning and see the luminous rings of a gas giant arching across the horizon, or to watch another giant Pleiades would emerge, new questions would be asked about creation and our place within the grand cosmic architecture. And then there are the resources, the very building blocks of a new society. A planet similar to our own might offer the comfort of the familiar, wood, water, and known minerals. But it could also harbor materials with properties that defy our terrestrial physics. Perhaps we would discover crystalline lattices capable of absorbing the heat of the local sun, storing its energy, and releasing it slowly through the long, cold night, revolutionizing power storage. Perhaps we would harness geothermal geysers of such ferocious power that a single plume of steam could energize an entire city, drawing power from the planet's own furious heart. If the local star were generous, every roof would gleam with solar arrays, their surfaces precisely tuned to the specific spectrum of that alien light, be it the harsh blue-white glare of a young sun or the deep crimson glow of an ancient dwarf. Ultimately, a human society on another planet would be the final, irrefutable proof of our adaptability. It would be the grand synthesis of our timeless ingenuity and the unprecedented challenges of a world not meant for us. In 1,000 ways, we would be the same people who first looked to the stars from the plains of Africa. And yet, in every way that mattered, we would be transformed. We would be a new humanity, forged in the crucible of another world, forever defined by the light of an alien sun. Out in the silent, star-dusted dark, a question persists, a cosmic echo of our own loneliness. Is there another Earth? A true twin to this world, waiting beneath the light of a distant sun. Astronomers cast their nets of light across the void, tirelessly sifting through the glint of faraway star systems, searching for that one perfect reflection of home. So far, the cosmos has offered us not a twin, but intriguing cousins. There is Kepler 452b, a world Unonger. It is a tantalizing glimpse of what might be. Closer, a mere cosmic stone's throw away, lies Proxima Centauri b. At just 4.2 light-years, it is our nearest exoplanetary neighbor, orbiting within the habitable zone of its dim, red dwarf star. These distant worlds are more than just data points. They are beacons of hope, feeding the profound human desire to believe that a second Genesis is not merely the stuff of fantasy. Our new eyes on the universe, instruments of blue these planets. They are not looking for landscapes, but for whispers, for the subtle chemical fingerprints of life. They sift through the ancient light that has traveled for years, decades, or centuries, searching for a trace of oxygen, a hint of water vapor, or the delicate disequilibrium of gases that could only be maintained by the persistent breath of biology. Every spectrum analyzed, every photon captured, brings us infinitesimally closer to answering the ultimate question: are we a singular miracle, or is the universe humming with life, waiting to be found? Yet to discover such a world is only the first, and perhaps the easiest step. The true challenge lies in the journey. The distances that separate the stars are an abyss of scale that the human mind can barely comprehend. Our closest candidate, Proxima b, feels within our grasp in celestial terms. But with the technology of today, a human voyage to its shores would be a multi-generational saga. Tens of thousands of years would pass. Entire civilizations would rise and fall on Earth while the vessel, a tiny spark of humanity, crawled through the interstellar night. But humanity has always been a species that dreams of new roads through the darkness. In the workshops and laboratories of today, the blueprints for a future among the stars are being drawn. Engineers imagine vessels powered by the heart of a star, fusion rockets that could shorten the journey from millennia to mere centuries. Physicists chase the mathematical specters of science fiction, probing the very fabric of space-time for a way to bend it, to fold the distance between light years as if they were miles. The undertaking would be colossal, the greatest migration in human history. It would require ships built on a scale never before conceived, vast arcs adrift in the void, generation ships where entire families would live and die, their descendants born with the knowledge that their only destiny is to arrive at a world their ancestors only ever saw as a point of light. Or perhaps it would be a journey of suspended time, with astronauts sealed in a sleep of ages, a cryogenic slumber, only to awaken decades later to the dawn of a new world, under the light of an alien sun. The technological hurdles are monumental, but the story of our species is one of impossible horizons, met and surpassed. From the first wheel that tamed the land to the first tentative steps on the pale dust of the moon, every seemingly insurmountable barrier has, with time and relentless determination, become a monument to our past. Reaching a new Earth would be the most epic of all these journeys, the ultimate test of our ingenuity, our endurance, and our will to survive. And so we are left with a final, more profound question. If we, as a species, choose to leave our native planet, the cradle of our entire history, the soil that holds the dust of our ancestors, and the only home our consciousness has ever known, to begin again under a strange sky, trading our familiar constellations for new patterns in the night, would be an act of ultimate faith and ultimate abandonment. It is a choice that would define not just our future, but the very meaning of what it is to be human. The question is not one of simple choice, but of destiny. On one hand, the dream of a second cradle among the stars, a new homeland born of fire and ambition. It is a promise whispered in the face of catastrophe, a final refuge should this earth, scarred by our own hand, no longer be able to sustain us. But on the other hand, to leave is to sever a bond millennia in the making. It means abandoning the very landscapes etched into our collective DNA, the culture born beneath these specific constellations, this singular sky. It is a farewell to everything that has defined us. At first, they would be few. Courageous pioneers, modern-day explorers trading a familiar world for an unknown fate. But if that distant twin proves hosped new colonies, their fragile settlements a testament to human resilience. And as the first defiant lights of a human city flicker against an alien twilight, we would understand. We would no longer be a species bound to a single world, but a people of the stars. An astronaut, standing on that new shore, would look up at a foreign sky, searching for a faint, familiar star, our sun. And there, a pale blue dot suspended in the vastness, would be Earth. In that profound moment of distance, we would finally grasp how infinitely precious our home is, and yet, how unquenchable our desire to journey beyond it will always be.